nice and cool outside, so we got the doors open to bring in some of that fresh air. I appreciate you all. My name is Garville Powell. I'm with Black Young Professionals of Metro Detroit. And on my far end of the table with Tisha Jones. She is also with Black Young Professionals of Metro Detroit. And we are here tonight with the Independent Business Association to discuss black business in Detroit. So I thank you all. We're going to be talking shop today. We're going to try to keep it very frank and easy for everyone to digest and make sure we have some information for not only people who run their own businesses or aspire to open their own businesses, but also consumers as well. So I think there's something for everyone today. Parts of Detroit are being revitalized, as we know. We see a lot of new people coming to town. Many of them are saying black entrepreneurship. Many people are saying black entrepreneurship is the next big step for our community to move forward. And so we're here to talk about those things, how they relate to each other, and finally the thoughts and actions of these black entrepreneurs that they took and what they would recommend that black consumers and other young entrepreneurs consider doing for the future success and collective success of the black community in Detroit. So I'm just going to lay down some ground rules, some quick housekeeping before we jump into anything here. First thing, we have two sections we're going to talk to today. First one's going to be about Detroit specifically, then the second section is going to be about black business in general. There will be questions asked or posed to each one of the panelists, but any of the panelists can answer the question after that first one if they have something to add in, so feel free to chime in if you feel you have something to add. Also, we're asking our panelists to try to take no more than 2 minutes per primary answer. So as you're asked the question, try to keep it to 2 minutes or less. And then if there are any follow-ups, just try to keep those at 30 seconds. Shanita here, our community service chair. Raise your hand, Shanita. She will actually be helping us with timing, so pay attention to her. If we're getting a little long, she'll let you know. So I appreciate your help with that. Without further ado, I'm going to start introducing our panelists. And Letitia, if you ever have something, please chime in and let me know. All right. So I'm going to start off with the young lady right here on my left, April Anderson. She is the CEO and founder of Good Cakes and Bakes. Have any of you heard of that good place, that lovely place? Yeah, right. I need to go get me some Good Cakes and Bakes. I tell you what. Let me see here. If I would put my paper over to the right page. There we go. So, a native Detroiter. April is a graduate of both Spelman and University of Michigan. So I know we got fans in both camps. She has been an established entrepreneur for over 4 years since founding Good Cakes and Bakes just in 2015, is that right? 2013. I had that wrong, my math is bad. So, incorporated in 2013, Good Cakes and Bakes' mission is to provide quality baked goods that are wholesome and organic in nature, and to provide baked goods in an environment that is positive, creative, educational, and friendly to employees and the community. In 2015, April, along with Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan, Prestige Foundation, as well as President Rick Rapson and former President Bill Clinton participated in Clinton Global Initiative, America's closing planetary session, Comeback Cities, which explored Detroit and highlighted its local businesses. So if we can give April a quick round of applause.
And I'm going to introduce Mr. Rufus Bartell, our host this evening. Thank you again so much. So Rufus Bartell is a visionary. He's a businessman, an influencer, and a toast maker with a strong sense of communal responsibility and a love for the city of Detroit. This Western Michigan University graduate has been an established entrepreneur for over 12 years. Bartell is a pioneer behind the Simply Casual clothing store, along with a pop-up shop that we're here at today. Both shops are intended to serve as nationally recognized shopping destinations for tourism and the local community. Additionally, he is a founder of RBI Events and Marketing Company, which specializes in events, production, and hospitality. And last but not least, he is also the co-founder of IBA, the Independent Business Association, and they are partners here this evening. Thank you all again. It was created to set trends, grow small business, and increase the customer buying experience in Detroit's retail and hospitality industry. Currently, Mr. Bartel, along with family members and others, are involved with recreating and redeveloping the Livernois corridor, which we're at today. Bartel has redeveloped and co-developed over 15 storefronts in Livernois, including the Shoe House Boulevard, Cuzzo's Chicken and Waffles, C. Gratson Bullard Design Studio, and more. Thank you again, Mr. Bartel.
So I now have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Floyd Jones. Floyd Jones is an established entrepreneur in Detroit, has been an established entrepreneur in Detroit for nearly 30 years. This Wayne State graduate is the founder and CEO of JJ & Associates, an IT consultancy for web-based environments, providing services for private and public sectors in implementation, assessment, analysis, design, testing, customization, and training. Their primary focus today is to provide functional and technical support on Oracle ERP upgrades, implementations, and ongoing maintenance, as well as mobile application development. Their traditional customer base includes the likes of United Components, the City of Atlanta, the City of Detroit, Duke University, University of Texas El Paso, Daimler Chrysler, the Department of Defense, and many others. So if we can please give it up for Mr. Floyd Jones.
And to the right of Mr. Jones, we have Brian Davis. Brian, you want to raise your hand? Brian Davis is a Detroit native, associate broker, property manager, and office manager at Team LBR Real Estate. Studying nursing and social work at Eastern Michigan University, Brian now has been an established entrepreneur in property management for over 10 years. Brian is a certified renovator with OSHA and certified lead-based paint risk assessor. Successfully managing a portfolio of over $5 million, he services his clients with the use of strategic planning, growth strategies, budget planning, and portfolio execution. Brian also boasts of good tenant retention rates, the average tenant renting for more than 5 years, as well as meeting and exceeding targets, renovations, and maintenance targets for his clients, to the extent of even increasing revenues by 100% in some facets of the company. Brian is very active in the local Detroit community through philanthropy, volunteerism, and working to empower small businesses to impact solutions for challenges within the community. Thank you again for coming with us today. I will be ending this. Last but definitely not least, I have the pleasure of introducing Ms. Nefertiti Harris. Would you raise your hand and let everyone know who you are? So Nefertiti Harris is the owner of Textures by Nefertiti, located in Midtown Detroit, and has been an established entrepreneur specializing in the cultivation of naturally kinky, curly hair for over 25 years. As a former model and Chicago native, Nefertiti became disillusioned with the industry. She saw African American women being forced to comply with beauty standards that didn't fit them. She felt a need to address this issue. Nefertiti understood the importance of maintaining beauty through working with hair in our culture. She began to work in a natural hair salon and furthered her training taking classes at natural hair conventions. Her salon, Textures by Nefertiti, has a cooperative village business model. Each provider of service is encouraged and supported to grow body, mind, and spirit. Her business model is honor the client. Nefertiti has been featured in Detroit Free Press, Model D, Michigan Citizen, O Magazine, and most recent, MSNBC's Joy Reid Show. Nefertiti has also opened a second business, Tarot and Tea. Is that correct?
Conversation about that.
Tarot and Tea focuses on helping individuals heal through energy work and aura cleansing and intuitive readings. Nefertiti is dedicated to the facilitation of helping women heal and embrace beauty from the inside out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, everyone, so let's get into it. Just quickly, just so everyone is level set, Black Young Professionals of Metro Detroit is a nonprofit 501c3 organization focused on uniting young Black professionals throughout Metro Detroit. We do that through 3 pillars. That's social engagement, giving people the opportunity to meet each other, community engagement, the opportunity to volunteer and get to know the organizations in the community, and then also personal development, where they get to learn how to be better individuals, because we believe as a professional association that you need to be a great individual before you come to work in order for you to succeed at work. So we focus on personal development, and that's what Black Young Professionals is about. However, I think I want to know a little bit more about IBA, so I want to give the mic to Rufus and have him tell us a little bit about the Independent Business Association that we're here with today.
Thanks, Darrell. But I'm going to digress. I'm going to hand the mic to Floyd. We're going to have Floyd do that. That's okay. You'll hear enough from me now.
All right, thanks, Rufus. Appreciate that. Now, the Independent Business Association is a group of local business owners. We're from the metropolitan area. Most of us live very close to Detroit, and our primary mission really is to promote the development, the renaissance, the rebirth, the growth of the city of Detroit. Most of us, like myself, grew up in Detroit, and I'm a native of Detroit. I love Detroit. That's where my heart is. So we want to see Detroit do very well. And we meet right here, this particular location, and we meet weekly here. We meet weekly because we think we need to set an example for people to see that we're very serious about promoting Detroit. We've been together as an organization for a number of years, over 10 years. I've been a member for probably about 9 years. And our mission is to, again, promote the development of entrepreneurship, business development, and the creation of wealth in our community. We say our primary objective is to provide services to a community that traditionally has not had, has been underserved, so to speak. But we're here every week, and I'm glad to see a lot of people here who are interested in entrepreneurship and ownership. And I hope you get a lot out of this session today.
Hey Floyd, I have a follow-up question for you. Just for the people who are new to IBA, IBA's composed of multiple companies across the Metro Detroit, and do they work together or collaboratively have shared learnings to better their organizations?
Yeah, IBA is composed of a wide variety of different types of businesses. Originally, we were chartered as an Independent Retailers Association. We were primarily retailers, but we had to expand a little bit beyond retail because we kept getting people who were interested who were in different particular areas. My area is information technology. But from time to time, we say that we are people who primarily, again, are ready to get behind Detroit, to put Detroit from a community standpoint with a variety of different types of businesses and services that folks can model and see and be part of, and hope, that they eventually become even part of our organization. We want people to be part of the Independent Business Association. That's the reason why we meet, every week, and that's the reason why when we meet, we post on Facebook. We let people know we're here, and so yes, we're a wide variety of different types of businesses. Oh, okay. Rufus wants me to have the members introduce themselves. We do have a number of members to our right here, and even throughout, I think, the room. And can we start with, the panel, of course, you guys have met already. Brian, right here, is a member. And how about you, Ponce? Let's start with you. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Sure, appreciate it. My name is Ponce Hunter. I've been a member of IBA for about 3 years now. I'm an independent estate planning professional. So I help younger people prepare for retirement, and for those that are already nearing or in retirement, help them to plan their estate. Also, I'm on the board of the professional events for IBA, myself and Brian. So that's our wheelhouse.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Larry Rivers. Brian and I are partners in Team LBR. We're a real estate company that specializes in property management, real estate sales. I've been in IBA 2 years now. One thing I like about IBA, these different organizations, businesses come together and we can see what type of opportunities are available to small business. Like we might meet with the mayor's office, we might meet with Janice Winfrey, we'll meet with different politicians who are running for office. Different programs are set up for businesses to take advantage of certain contracts. If you're not plugged into these organizations, you really don't know what's going on in the community. You don't know what new stores are opening. It plugs us into politics, plugs us into business opportunities. I'm on the recruiting team, and it's a good organization. I support it, and I love it. Thank you.
Denise?
Hello. Welcome. My name is Denise Beauregard, and I'm the owner of Urban Intima. It's an online intimate apparel mail order company. We're about to change the name because we've run into a few hiccups with a couple of other companies being a little bit too similar to ours. So the new name will be State of Traction, and we'll move it to a new platform. I became a business owner after essentially walking away from a 20-plus year career in the investment industry. It's not that I'm a goody two-shoes, but I've written out a fair number of these market collapses and these things that happen because people are misbehaving with other people's money, and it gets to a point where you just have to say enough is enough. It never happened to me or my clients, but at some point you have to ask yourself about what kind of company you're keeping, and that you might stay in an industry that might seduce you into something like that. So it was just time to go. I'm also a contract representative for Imperium Laboratories. We do PGX testing, so I have doctors around the country that I'm working with, particularly in light of the opioid crisis. What else? And I have JDB Events, that's a food, travel, and wine firm. We do luxury all-inclusive food trips. 2018, there'll be 10 of them, so it keeps me busy.
Thank you. I think we have one more member.
Yeah, we got two more over there.
Okay.
Hayward and Harold.
Oh, yeah, really quick. My name is Hayward Crawford. I'm a freelance film production coordinator and also a financial advisor. And I'm also been a member of IBA for about 2 years. And I've also held the recruiting board with Larry.
Good afternoon. My name is Harold Scholl. I'm a certified public accountant and owner of Scholl's Tax and Accounting Service. I'm also licensed with the Board of Revenue Service as an enrolled agent, and I practice out of Midtown. I've been a member of IBA about 6 years, and it's a good organization.
One last person right here. Well, one there, one there. Green and green. Yep.
Okay.
Let's both cameras first.
Oh.
Yeah, hold the camera.
Right. So, well, somebody got to.
Well, you got hold the mic and they
All right, yeah, I do that.
My name is Prema Kadir. I have a business called Web Video. I do websites and video production, live video streaming, and webinars.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Ferdinand Barnes. Involved in video productions. Retired from Channel 2 News. Used to be one of the guys out there with the trucks and stuff and the camera chasing down news stories. I kind of have my own business, Number of Productions, but kind of do when I feel like it. And I do a little bit of everything, as long as it involves video production, sometimes commercial work, non-commercial work, private work, parties, a few weddings here and there, business stuff, whatever people kind of ask me to do. And I've been a member of IBA for a while now.
Thank you all for that. So what we want to do is jump right into our next question. Latisha's going to take it away, and it's going to be for each person on the board.
Okay. So how did each of you get started, and why did you continue to have your business here in the city of Detroit? April, do you want to start?
So we've been in business for 4 years. What was the other question? Sorry.
And why?
How did you get in business? How did it start?
Oh, I'm sorry. So we wanted to be in Detroit because I was born and raised in Detroit. I got in business because in 2010 I went back to school to get a degree in pastry arts. And when I was done with school, I left my career in finance for 17 years with the intent to open a bakery in Detroit. I knew I wanted to open a bakery. I've been baking since I was 9. And the Avenue of Fashion was the choice because we did our very first pop-up. This was the in this location right here, this was the first time that I ever sold to anyone. So up until that point, I had only baked for friends and family.
So this place goes back for you.
Yeah, it has memories.
Awesome.
I got started about 2006. Just had a passion to really want to be in the real estate industry, and from there was able to have a mentor to take me under to show me the business. With respect to the other part of the question, why do you continue your business in Detroit? Particularly Detroit, to me, speaking as an individual, is very unique. And the people here are great. I'm a native Detroiter. I'm from Detroit. So my passion is always to see whatever I want to do great in the world start first in Detroit. And so that's one of the reasons, along with Larry, we share that same passion and want to make sure whatever we do is going to stem from what happens out of Detroit.
I think that I've always had a passion to be a business person, even as a kid. And I'm not quite sure exactly where it came from. When I was a kid, people would tell me, you got hair like a preacher. And I never understood what that meant. but no, we had a lot of men in our community in Detroit during the time when I was a young boy that really stepped forward. And they were business owners in Detroit. And they're sort of a model, I suppose, subconsciously for me. So I always had this drive to be. But then, of course, there was the avenue of fashion out here. And that was always an important part of our community, particularly the black business community. So I had some modeling. But I always had a desire to make some money and to be a businessman.
I remember very young, 12, 13, 14. My father was a factory worker in Chicago, and he was also a musician. And I remember my father had his own little man cave, and he would invite me in sometime to have these little talks, and he'd drop these jewels on me. And I remember looking at my father being very depressed many days. And I remember one day he said, never work a job you don't want to be at. Don't live your life that way. And that just stuck with me. Because I watched him, and I just watched my father he was going down, you know, and so that just left an impression on me. So that was the seed that was planted at a very, very young age. I came to Detroit many years ago. I was a member of a church called the Shrines of Black Madonna. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that church. But I joined that church when I was 15, right? And I came here to work on Coleman Young's campaign at the age of 18. And then I moved to Detroit at the age of 19. And I had a few jobs, but I was really a missionary, a member of that particular church. And I got, fast forward, you know, I get to the hair business, you know, the model in Chicago, whatever. But I knew that Detroit was the right place for me to start my business because this is my market. You know, African American people, women, this is my market, this is my interest. So I don't see myself, I don't see that changing at all. What was the question?
No, seriously.
Seriously? Okay. So how did you get started, and why do you continue to have your business here in the city of Detroit?
Okay, I'm gonna answer the last question first.
Okay.
One, I think that you know, as a world traveler, I think Detroit is absolutely the best place on planet Earth for an African American business owner. We're at the point where we have the opportunity to rebuild a great American city. You oftentimes don't have that in a lifetime. Detroit was one of the first cities in America that really blew up, became a big city. Many people don't know Detroit was in the top 3 or 4 largest cities in the United States, behind New York, behind Chicago. Then it was Detroit, then it was Philly, and then LA didn't come on until the late 50s. As a result of that, Detroit is one of the last big cities in America being redeveloped. So that means between now and the next 20 to 25 years, there's going to be some staggering growth. It's going to happen with or without us or with or without you. So the question becomes, how are you going to participate? How are you going to position yourself? And so I think we have a window, but I think we have a closing window. Because as Detroit becomes revealed to the rest of the part of the world, you have a city with this kind of footprint, with these kind of amenities, these natural amenities. 1/5 of the world's fresh water at our doorstep. All these amenities, people are coming to other markets where they can't get these things. And so that's going to make for scarce opportunity if people don't strike a position very quickly. And so we've been hearing that for a while. I'm ignoring that 36, I mean, get it. No. So anyway, so that's the last part. The first part of the question is that the business is on in excess of 20 years, so that 12 years wasn't quite accurate. But how that got started is that from the very beginning, I was smaller, I'm the youngest of 14 in my family. And I watched my father work 3 jobs as he began to have all these kids. And he forbade my mother to work at that particular time. We grew up in a church family, and we were having these babies, and it was very important for her to tend to the kids. That was very, very important. So as he began to work these 3 jobs, my mom didn't take a job until I turned 5 years old. And I think this is something that people should know about. A lot of people don't understand that. My mom and dad was married for 69 years. They were the template. So, if I turn out to be, the worst person, it would be no fault of my parents. But I think this is very important that people should understand what the bases are and what we need to do to be successful because we have a legacy to build. So I feel an additional burden and an additional motivation simultaneously because I understand the legacy that I come from, the legacy I have to leave. So with that being said, my motivation is multifaceted, and certainly, hopefully, I'll get the opportunity to share with you as this panel continues.
Hey Rufus, I got one follow-up question for you, sir. What do you find to be, you spoke about positively about Detroit being the place for Black entrepreneurs, Black businesses right now. What is that a big difference if you go outside the city limits? Is there a difference between working in the city of Detroit versus being like Troy or Southfield or something?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. One is that when we're talking about Detroit, we're talking about anything south of Ann Arbor. So we got to understand we're not talking about necessarily demarcation line of 8 miles. So we're talking about the region. And so we're not going to let anybody, try to separate what happens in Southfield versus what happens in Detroit. That's just a dumb conversation.
Thank you for that.
All right. Letitia, you want to go with the next one?
Sure. So let me ask this other question to Nefertiti. What are your location is actually specifically in downtown Detroit or Midtown Detroit. So what are some of the other implications of having a business in that area versus the rest of Detroit? Right, because I saw that you wanted to answer. I saw you wanted to say.
Piggyback on what you're saying, because there I don't see any
delineation,
demarcation. I just don't. When I was in Midtown, it was Cass Corridor.
Right.
And I was chasing, sisters off the corner.
Well, let's pause there, because I mean, a lot of us are here. Some of us are new to the area. Some of us have been here forever, right? Yeah. And there is this rebirth that we talked about with this. With the entrepreneurial ecosystem of the city of Detroit. And so now you see this revitalization downtown. And I think especially we have people who are in the audience who are new entrepreneurs, or at least budding entrepreneurs with ideas, and some of them are established as well. What about the history? Can you give a little bit of detail about that in terms of where it was before and where it is now?
So before Midtown was rebranded to Midtown,
yeah,
it was Cass Corridor. And it was a place where a lot of hippies, a lot of all artists, creatives, lived, and worked. But it was also a place, where there was a lot of drugs. So it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't polished as you see it now. But it was a great place. For me, Cass, there was a store called Cass Co-op that I frequented all the time, vegetarian food store. But, so now it's rebranded to Midtown, and there's nothing wrong with revitalization. You know, I like to have street lights. I like not to step over, you know, garbage and broken glass. I don't see a problem with that. So, back to your question again.
What are some of the, well, go ahead. I know Rufus has this.
Yeah, I just want to add some clarity to what she was saying, and then one statement I want to make. Like, at the end of the day, this is what we owe each other. I don't care what we do when we go with our vocation, especially when we begin to transfer information. We got to transfer it as accurately as best as possible, because we can take accurate information into the marketplace and cash in. What we can't take is inaccurate information, and we'll get rejected because it won't hit the target. And that's with all our discussion. And certainly, one of the big misnomer in the narrative about this whole Midtown versus Cass Corridor. Cass Corridor simply was a street that ran from downtown all the way up to West Grand Boulevard. That was the street. But Midtown is something more than Cass Corridor. And what a lot of people don't know is that in the 20s and the 30s, it was Midtown. Detroit got away from that name, and about 30 years ago, a lady named Sue Mosley, who's a friend of mine, says, let's reach into the archives and put it back to what it was, and let's create development surrounding this name ID. So that's kind of what happened. So Midtown and Cass Corridor coexisted, but people referred to it as the Cass Corridor, but Midtown was never the Cass Corridor. Cass Corridor is one street where a lot of, you know, the house of ill repute basically was on Cass Corridor. But that district goes from the Lodge over the other side, the east side of John R. Well, the other side of Woodward, John R. is not Cass Corridor. So we can't refer to Midtown as Cass Corridor. It was never that.
And see, this is history I don't know. I'm not privy to because I'm from Chicago. So, thank you for that. What was the rest of the question?
Well, also the pros and cons.
Yeah, you know, so I tend not to focus on the cons. I really do, because for me, it's been nothing but a good thing. I mean, honestly, it's been a good thing, because I've been able to cultivate really good relationships in that area that have helped me to grow my business.
And let me maybe open this up to everyone in terms, because one thing that we know from business is location, location, right? So, and a lot of the momentum is downtown, but Detroit is more than just that small element. And so I'm interested to hear in terms of because I mean, a lot of us, again, some of us are budding entrepreneurs, and so we're looking to you all as seasoned veterans in the game to kind of put us on in terms of what are some things to consider, and maybe not pros and cons, maybe challenges and opportunities.
That's a different question.
How about that?
Yeah, let me respond a little bit to that question. I went to high school downtown. I went to Cass Tech. Then I went to Wayne State University. So that is like my neighborhood, that area over there. And what we're seeing today is a lot of development, a lot of new people coming in the community, and that's, you know, that's a very good thing, and it's a very good time for business in that community right now. So, you know, as been previously stated, there's really not a lot of negative about that community and that area at all. Now, we happen to be up here on the Avenue of Fashion. That's that area is really bustling, it's taking off, and it's a very good opportunity, you know, if in fact you have a good product or service, because it's just going to grow. It's just going to explode, in fact, not grow. When they complete the stadium down there, it's going to be crazy in terms of, so it's a very, very good location. The whole city is just really, as Rufus mentioned, taking off. I mean, the city is really doing well. So, Brian, anything you want to add to that, or anybody else?
You guys covered that.
So I think that the difference in downtown, the Avenue of Fashion, and any other area in Detroit, it depends on the type of business that you have and the type of customer that you're looking for. We knew when we opened, we wanted to service neighborhoods, we wanted to service African Americans, we wanted to service people who was health conscious, who knew, understood, and appreciated organic. So we knew what area we wanted to be in. So that's something that you just have to take in consideration with what type of business you have, what type of customer you're looking for. That determines where you should be, not just necessarily if it's midtown, quarter-town, downtown, avenue of fashion. It depends on the type of customer that you're looking for and where you need to be for that customer to get to you.
So let me ask this follow-up. Yeah.
I'd like to add something to that conversation. So, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the challenge. Okay, so maybe a challenge could be the fact that I didn't buy earlier on, you know, and so I'm adding that to say, you know, a lot of young people, you have the opportunity now to look in areas, all right, and create your own vision. And you don't, and it doesn't have to, and create your own model. It doesn't have to look like Midtown. It shouldn't look like Midtown. You know, or whatever, Courttown, whatever. It could be whatever your vision is. But now, like you said, the door is closing. But it's time now to look at properties, get serious about buying them. If you have to work together, you know, 3 or 4 folk will come together and start buying up swaths of land.
So
and fixing them up. That's what everybody else did, honestly.
Just quickly.
Yeah, just really quick. One thing about trying to find a con, because I'm more along the line of Nefertiti and saying I'm really trying to focus on the solution opposed to the problem and looking at any challenge as an opportunity to succeed opposed to being defeated. But with that being said, a practical bottom line to having a business in Detroit is that the insurance rates are ridiculous versus being in a metropolitan out of or suburban location. So one, you really got to have a passion, as April was saying, in regards to is your audience here, is just your target base, because that one to keep you here. But if you're looking at just a bottom line of a con, that's one thing I can say as a business owner when you're looking at premium rates, something that will hit your bottom line and say, well, this is a con to doing business in Detroit versus other places. However, I hope that we can get to a point, and I know there's some things happening where we might be able to challenge and champion our red line, and frankly, that's been going on for decades in the city of Detroit with respect to residents as well as business owners.
So let me come back with something real quick. Before I want to come back and jump on that, but I want to ask Rufus this question. We talked about Detroit being the place, and there's cons, there's pros. Is there anything in particular that you would like the people here and our wider audience to know about the Livernois area in particular that they should know that's unique, or something that should bring them this way, if at all, out of other areas?
I think Livernois is a very, very, unique location. We're all in, so it's not about these 3 or 4 blocks. It's about the 3-mile stretch. And to that end, the Independent Business Association is, along with a couple other organizations, leading the charge in rebranding and redeveloping this whole 3-mile corridor. So oftentimes when people talk about Livernois, that's this historic name ID as in the Avenue of Fashion. And historically, Avenue of Fashion is 3 or 4 blocks. We love the 3 or 4 blocks. However, we're talking about a 3-mile context. We're talking about 8 Mile to the Lodge. The beauty of that being the demarcation line and creating a sense of place is because you got 8 Mile, which is the state baseline. You got the Lodge to the south. You got Woolworth to the east. And so this voting district, District 2, is simply the highest voting district in the city, the highest land value in the city. But you got other competing districts that's close by in terms of the voting and the output. But this footprint, so imagine you have 3 miles of things to do on one street. What kind of opportunity does that present? Oftentimes people say that, well, there's no places to park. But certainly you can argue that when you talk about a 3 or 4 block context. But when you start talking about a 3-mile context, there's plenty of parking. What kind of opportunity that presents itself? And what about shuttles? What about going to and fro? What about when you have party buses that sit during the day, only go out at night? So there's a tremendous amount of opportunities when we talk about the housing stock that's around here and the available income that's around here. So currently, myself and my team, we probably have no less than, other than what we mentioned before in the bio, we probably got 9 projects and which about 4 we're going to give birth probably in the next 60, 80 days that we have announced. Impactful projects. Some rehabs and some ground up. So we all in on Illinois. And the key is anybody that's want to get into the game, we want to act as recruiters. Any business, any person that operate a business on Illinois, I want you to act as a recruiter. Because after we fill up Illinois, guess what we're going to do? We're going to pick another street and do it all over again.
That's right.
That's vision. That's legacy. Don't anybody tell you different. I'll ask you a question. What's the difference between making $10 on Illinois and $10 downtown? I'll give you the answer. Nothing.
All right. So, with that being stated, I want to ask each of you just quickly, what in the creation and growth of your business, because you were talking about the redlining issue, you're talking about growing in this area, has the government, whether it be local or state, have they been a supporter or some type of ally or giving you resources as we hear about all these small business loans and these grants and stuff? Have you guys been able to receive those type of things or been privy to those services or what have you as small business owners yourselves?
I know I have. Yeah. I was a recipient of the Any Ideas grant in 2015.
So that's why I didn't win.
Yeah, no, there were several. So, I've also applied for Motor City Match, and so I'm waiting to hear some other word from that. But there are so many grant opportunities around. I just think that by the time that information trickles down to our community, it's almost the deadline is done. It's a last minute thing. We can't seem to get it together. So it's very important for us to have open conversation. This is a great panel to share that kind of information. And that's one thing I want to add is that Detroit is 80% African American, 80%. So we can't buy into this conversation that is very small about somebody walking into our house and taking over. That's a small conversation for us. We own this. Detroit is 80% African American. So, I'm just saying that to say, when I hear people say, well, they're taking over, people taking over downtown and blah, 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 I'm like, well, go downtown. Get involved. Get busy.
Yeah, I add to that, after being in the business about 25 years, I decided that, something, maybe I need to look at additional strategies for being successful. And one of the things I came to realize was that as a business person, you really need to be involved in the organization. Because an organization like IBA can really leverage what it is you're trying to do. Getting access to information that they just mentioned, is key. Most people never heard of Any Idea.
Right.
See, that's one of the advantages of being part of an organization. Most people haven't met Dugan, haven't met Janet Winfrey, haven't met the governor. An organization like this gets you in front of people and establishes a relationship. And you guys know, I'm sure you already know this, relationships are key in the business world. Absolutely key. So a huge benefit in terms of being a part of a group like IBA is it's going to really help you leverage your business really strongly.
Awesome, thank you for that. So let me ask this question, then we'll finish up with one last one from Letitia. The study, so we already knocked that out of the park. Nefertiti spoke on that really clearly, that the idea of speaking or worrying about newcomers coming in, we need to focus on doing our own. It's our house.
Yeah.
With it being our house, I think we're going to spill over into the other section. Is there anything that you have learned since you've been operating in this city that reinforces to you that we won't lose this house?
If we lose this house, it's because we get the house up. It's because we still in the house.
Carol reply to that, please. That question right there is very, very ambiguous question, and it has a lot of people concerned. You know, we use this big G word. We're at the end of the day, we're at the 5 o'clock. So at the end of the day, what it really comes down to, Detroit belongs to anybody who's going to invest in it, shop in it, redevelop it, vote in it, market it. That's who Detroit belongs to. It doesn't simply belong to the person who's took up space. And that may sound funny, that might rub people the wrong way if they don't understand it in context. Because here's the thing, right? How is it that you can have a house and there's 2 board-ups next to you and you watch it for 5 years? And by happenstance, somebody comes, they don't look like you, grab it, rehab it, bring value, then sell it. You cry gentrification when you watched it for 5 years. Is that really gentrification? So I think at some point, as it relates to this changing city, like we're working on a concept called metamorphosis, the changing of a great American city, panel discussion. It's going to be an ongoing panel discussion that the Independent Business Association is going to produce. And these are the type of topics that we're going to talk about, but the first thing we're going to do is going to look inward and find out what role that we play, what position that we need to have in order to create the kind of city that we want. And it can't be simply we occupy this space. That's not good enough. You have to till the soil.
So then let me ask back to the panel. How do you not just occupy but own the space that you live in? Because I found it was motivating to me to hear you talk about legacy. I think we all owe those who came before us a great deal, because that's why we are where we are, right? So we are part of a legacy, even being here right now. But how do that legacy exists, you all are setting the groundwork, but how do you not just occupy a space, but own it and maintain that legacy? I mean, there have been historically, whether we're looking in Chicago, whether we're looking in New York, there have been areas that we occupied, and at one point we owned our space, and then we lost it. So what are some things that, well, not lost it, but there are some areas though that at one point belonged to us that no longer exist, right? I mean, we can at least acknowledge that. So how do we prevent that from happening here? How do we not only occupy the space, own it, and also put in some things so that we can prevent it from being taken from us, if you will, or at least.
It's a great question.
You know, I mentioned at the very beginning that our organization meets weekly, every Wednesday for 3 hours. People say, I can't come anywhere for 3 hours every week. It's too much. But see, we have to have a vision as a people for what we want. We have to organize and we have to work. It will come if we work at implementing that vision. But we got to be willing to pay the price. It's not complicated. Seriously. It's not complicated. And education always helps. You get a PhD, 2 PhDs, 3 PhDs, 4 PhDs, it always helps. But at the end of the day, you got to do the work. You got to come together, you got to have the vision, and you got to do the work. And of course, it will happen for us as it happens for every community, every other community in America. It will happen.
Thank you. Can I say this? And I think this is going to be very, very important. And if you don't listen to anything else that I say for the rest of the evening, please listen to this. We have this situation about ownership. Ownership is always the goal. The first goal is control. Always control the property. Well, how can you do that? Real strong lease option with a first right of refusal. Because keep in mind, everything that you want is either owned or controlled by somebody else. Let that simmer for a second. Everything that you want is either owned or controlled by somebody else. So one, you got to learn to negotiate. 2, I don't care what business or vocation you're in, learn the game of real estate. Because everything we do in business has a real estate implication. I'm going to repeat that again. Everything we do in business have a real estate implication. I don't care if you work for a Fortune 500 Fortune 500 company that sits on some dirt. I don't care if you run your online business, forget brick and mortar, but you forget your house is brick and mortar. So my point is, learn about real estate. So control the property first. So you may have legacy families, which we run into all the time. Our Jewish brothers in particular, they don't believe in selling, never. The only time they sell when their nephew don't want to take the business or he's a slacker, and then they will sell. Well, you've been renting the property 15 years, so you're controlling it. So you want that clause in your contract that says, if you sell, I have the first right to buy it. And that's how you buy property. Because most of the businesses in America that operate is 90% leases. Only 10% own and operate. In most cases, it's not even good to own and operate the business at the same time. That's a discussion for another day. But you want to control the property at the very least. So when you get a lease, every person that tries to get that property after you, if it doesn't go into foreclosure, they have to honor the lease by either buying you out or honoring the lease. So that's very, very important. Control the property, then own it. Because you're going to be frustrated and you're never going to business if you say, listen, I'm only going to go into business when I can own a building. Well, you're never going to be in business. Because you already own the property and may not be interested in selling at the time that you've been interested in buying. So control it first, then own it. Somebody should be writing that down.
I wrote it down. Brian, please, what do you have? And then April.
Yeah, really quick, just in terms, because that's a loaded question in terms of starting from how do we, if we're the majority population, keep our house, if you will. And I agree that it's not our house, it's what you do to make it your house, whoever that individual is first. However, when we talk about this context about black business, black entrepreneurs, we have to be true about the context of what our situations can be. And a lot of time from studies down that we do know, which one of the panelists was here, we know that small black businesses, and I think in Detroit was just stated that most of them are 2 people or less. This is what we're talking about. Also, we know now through small loan interest, if you will, that in that, the $100,000 loans that mostly African Americans are in that realm of getting, if I'm not mistaken, from that study, is that we're not even capitalizing on that. I don't even think it was at 5% that we're even getting $100,000 to start our business. I say all that to say, yes, it's true that we have to be independent enough not to allow that we're black to make you think you have to only do things that are black related in response to your business, because that's not true. We're together to support black business so that we can be global. Right. But we're not being supported in some instances, as the studies show. And so this is why you have these clusters of black conversation that I think get misunderstood for us to say that we don't want to be abroad, we don't want to be global, we don't want to sell our products and services across the world. We do, but these are the functions that we need to be at to get the information, because most of the time we don't get the information. And if you don't have someone that has your interest in mind, you're not going to get that information. Right. So what I want to close on also to up-and-coming entrepreneurs is a must that you do get involved in associations. Because I can speak from being in the game for 11 years, and to be quite frank, it was until I got into IBA is where a lot of the bigger relationships, when it really takes power control, making things actually happen, when we're talking about moving the needle and not just sit back talking or speculating or even using miseducation a lot of times. So I just want to say, really think about that in the whole context of when we're talking about black entrepreneurship and why we are even together. It's not just to sell to black people. It's to sell across the world.
Good morning. Did you have anything to add?
No, everyone said everything. I was going to say I'll be just recapitulating everything.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that was great, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next section. We talked a bit about Detroit there, and we'll have an open Q&A at the end here, not too long. But we're going to talk a bit more about black business in general. And I think people have already tiptoed around this, and we just heard Brian speak on it. And it's about your customers, right? We talk about the customers you sell to, and we talk about being global and whatnot. So I want to just do a quick round robin around the table, just some thoughts on, do you believe that your business is perceived today as being only for blacks, or do you get many white customers or customers of other backgrounds in general? I want to just get an understanding and start us out there.
So I'll start. So no, we're not just a black business. Our customer base is not just African Americans and black. Honestly, our customer base is 64% of our customers are Detroiters, and 35% of those people are Caucasian. Only 17% of our customer base is African American. That's online, in store, or through catering. The balance of our customer base is actually corporations. We do a lot of catering. So no, we're not a black business. And we knew that our business was not going to be a majority of African Americans, only because we're an organic bakery. So our prices are a little higher than other places, and we knew the people that we were targeting were people who had disposable income, who had knowledge, education, and a desire to eat healthy. And so they knew that came with a premium price. So we knew when we started our business that it might not be all African Americans, and so we never target our business to be African American, a black business for only black customers, and that would be foolish for anyone to start a business and say, I'm only going to sell to African Americans. My product is only for African Americans. Yeah.
Did I already answer this question?
You told it. You told us.
You answered about your personal business.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you, April. Okay. Where are we? I'm sorry. I was really listening to what April was saying.
Do you believe your business is perceived as only being for black customers?
Perfect. All right, I'm back on track. No, we don't, because as April was just giving her numbers, our company is probably what drives our income is probably anywhere between 85 to 90% non-African American. And this is from the States as well as overseas. So again, it would be a miscalculation if we were to assume or to think that our products are only for black people. What I do want to say though, again, because this is really important, this is about black context. We have pride in being black entrepreneurs, as we should, knowing all the different constructs that we go through prior to even getting to this table. However, it doesn't have to be your advertising. Your existence tells me, if you run this company, you own it, well, it's black owned. I don't need to, it's black owned, it's black owned, it's black. That's fine in the context of you're talking to a specific situation, but a general broad market that we're talking about is not only black people. However, you can be that role model, that presence, and show that it is black people that's happening, because at the end of the day, that still is the psyche. No matter who you look at when they see you, that's still going to be the psyche, and they're either going to be impressed with you or not. So I just want to say it's fine to have our pride, but when we're talking from a global standpoint of entrepreneurship, we need to understand that we need to let our being be ourselves, for that we are black entrepreneurs and that our company is black owned.
Well, obviously the type of business that I've owned, information technology, and primarily implementing very large systems with super large companies, those companies, 99% of them were white-based, of course. I do market my company as a black business when there's an advantage. Let's say if there's a vendor requirement that 10% of the vendors of any particular company utilize quote-unquote minority services. Any edge you can get in the market, of course, you take advantage of. But my overall strategy, I think, and this is something I recognized a long time ago, is that what you do in business is you buy from your community and you sell to everybody. What I mean by that is, as a business, you must purchase goods, products, and services in order to be in existence. So the way you build your base, your community, is you buy from your community. If you have opportunity first, and then you sell to everybody in the world, and then you're able to, like, get the job done.
And I want to just tap this real quick before we get to Nefertiti. That would speak to the idea that not every business that someone could consider going into is going to be on the front lines of flashy and glamorous storefronts. It would be, you might be a supplier to something you do.
Absolutely.
And that can help build black wealth just as much as being on the street out here selling the computers themselves.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, even the smallest business, you're going to need, office supplies. You're going to need telephone services. You're going to need perhaps payroll services. So if you're able to buy those products and services from your community and then sell to everybody in the world, you're kicking it. You got to go on.
So I'm in the business of kinky curly hair. Okay. So because I'm in the business of kinky curly hair, and I have a natural hair salon, my market is predominantly women that have kinky curly hair that happen to be African American women, right? The salon is a cultural phenomenon. It's a place where women can come to and let their, get loose, talk about, their problems, get, get consultations from the stylist. I mean, it is really a social element in the salon, particularly in an African American salon space, and so we cater just by culture and nature to African American women or women of African descent. And so, if there are some other sisters that come in that have kinky curly hair that might not be of African descent, we take care of them too, and we have, as a matter of fact. But just by culture, the nature of that salon, of our salon, natural hair, we are speaking to predominantly African American women. Yeah. And what is that?
I'm going to answer this question this way, because this is a very, complex question in my regard. It's like the person who robs the bank and say, why did you rob the bank? Because that's where the money is. Meaning that and Detroit is a very unique city. So when you talk about a city that's 80% black, what's the probability that a large portion of your customer base is going to be black? So it's not necessarily saying that, okay, because I'm a black business, I expect only black people. But if you go to China, and it's 80% Chinese, you open a business in China, it's a large probability that your customer base could be Chinese if they want to buy your product or service. However, what people also got to understand, and this is a mixed bag, and that is that when you talk about business is power, because business is money. So oftentimes we got to give our money an assignment, and oftentimes money is tribal. So which means that when people want to build a certain community, when they collect among themselves, they understand the power of trade among themselves in order to make themselves stronger to be able to go last and build in the marketplace. So the marketplace is a cross-section of the world. So oftentimes when you go to the marketplace, if you want to have enough help or enough teammates to go to the marketplace, oftentimes you lose. And for the most part, those teammates are people who look like you. So when you stick out your shingle, say that I'm in business, certainly you want to be able to serve your product or service to whomever will or whomever will want to come into your doors. But if you got 80% of people in Detroit, but if you're in New York, that's a whole different question. That means a whole set of circumstances with different meanings. So while April said that she's not a black bakery, she's vegan and her price point is higher, blacks can afford that. So it's not because your price points are higher and it's organic, that's the reason why you sell to other people. No, you sell to other people because other people want the product, because blacks are the same people who buy those products. And guess who owns the product? You do, and you black. So in other words, I'm saying is that we open our doors, we put together the best product or service that we can, and we hope for the best. Certainly at the end of the day, if the tribal community outside of yourself don't want to support for their own hang-ups or whatever reason, the very bottom is that you should. And you got to look at it in that context, in my opinion.
So I will be joining your organization Thursday. That's the truth. So I'm looking at this point, I'm just going to say, now I'm looking, speaking of global, I'm looking at reaching sisters on the continent. So this is not just, you know, my vision is not the continent of Africa. So, thank you. So my vision is not just here in Detroit. It is, but I'm reaching. The tentacles are looking at parts of West Africa, South Africa, and I'm using product, you know, to do that. So this is a conversation that is bigger. I'm saying that to say, when you think about your business, have a larger vision, have a big picture, and just know that the world is open to you. The world, not just a few square feet.
Okay, I need to respond to Rufus. So first, let's be clear. I didn't say that I wasn't a black business. I am a black business. I'm a black bakery. I just knew when we opened who our customer base would be, and I knew who our customer base would be as far as being a regular customer. Of course, African Americans, black people come into our bakery, but in order for us to establish a business, we needed to know who our target market was going to be, who had disposable income, who would not have a problem spending because they understood, appreciated, and knew the value of organic baked goods. So when I said that our customer base is non-African Americans, I was meaning that when we started our business, we knew who our target market would be, who would understand, appreciate, and become a regular customer, because a one-time customer isn't a customer. So I'm very clear that we're a black business. I'm very clear that we're a black bakery. But I do not advertise that as far as saying, oh, I only want to sell to black people. I'm only making products for African Americans, because that's not what we are.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And so one thing we talk about that you mentioned is tribalism and supporting one another. I mean, that's the reason why we're here today, is really to provide a venue for you as entrepreneurs to have an audience, and also for us to be able to learn together, collectively together. And one thing that is disheartening is the statistic, I may get it wrong, but it says that the dollar in the Asian community lasts 28 days. It's 19 days in the Jewish community, and it's like 6 hours in our community. And 6 hours, my understanding, statistically. That long? That long, right? I know. That's on a good day. That's on a Sunday. But with that being said, and with credence to understand that, as April shared, she has a business that has an open cohort, right? So that anybody could really take part. And Nefertiti, speaking of African American, I mean, really, kinky curly hair, you're of African descent. Everyone's of African descent, but whatever, that's another story. So, but with that in mind, though, because I'm a patron, I'm not a business owner, I'm in corporate America, but I'm a patron, so what responsibility do we as patrons have to you, to support you, one? Two, even though because you mentioned, Ryan, that you had like 10% of your population are African American. When you looked at your statistics, 10 to 15% were African American. Even though you all are not necessarily, you're global in your thinking, how can we increase that dollar in our community? What can we do to change those dynamics? Because when you speak of legacy and when you speak of being able to own a space, it's still going to require us to be able to be consumers of one another. So how do we change those dynamics? And not just in your personal business, but I'm talking about on a larger scale.
So I feel that we have to be intentional about where you spend your money. Even though it might be going out of the way a little bit, you know that you want an outfit to wear. You have to intentionally say, you know what, I'm going to drive on the Avenue of Fashion. I'm going to go patronize Simply Casual. I'm going to go get my outfit from there. Opposed to going to a mall, going to a store that might be cheaper. You have to intentionally think to spend your money with African Americans. It's an intentional thing to do. And it's sad to say that it is, because other communities, other nationalities, it's not that. It's just what we do. I'm Asian, I make sure all of my money is going to Asian business. But African American community is not that way. And that just has to be something that has to change. The mindset has to be changed. The mindset has to be changed, as well as the intentional spending of your dollar. this is what I'm going to take my money. I'm going to intentionally look for African American services. If I need a painter, if I need someone to, a roofer, a plumber, I'm going to intentionally look for an African American owned business to spend my dollars with.
That's a very good point, Yasmin. I want to sort of piggyback on. There are a lot of like African Americans in so many different type of businesses that people are really not aware of. We got black plumbers, electricians, HVAC, lawn people, and many times because we're not aware of it, we simply don't think about it. We talk to our friend and say, "Oh, God, who's like unstopping your toilet this weekend?" You know what I mean? Say, "Oh, I got this good guy, blah 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 blah." But there are African Americans in that area. So if in fact we are intended on spending our money in our community, we need to make a little bit of effort. And on the part of African American businesses, we have to be excellent. We have to be absolutely excellent in terms of our attitude. I mean, because what that does is that says, okay, I understand, you're making a special effort to come by to do business with me in our communities. And as a result, the service or the product is going to be excellent. And if there's any issue at all, just like I deal with black plumbers, black HVAC, all black. And every one of them has the same attitude. I never have to worry about anything at all. They're super responsive. And that's what we have to be. So if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you have to have that same mindset. You can't just say, hey man, you should be doing business with me because I'm your brother, I'm your cousin. I'm like, yeah man, but you got to take care of business. So, and if we do that, we're going to also, elevate this attitude, out in the general public is that we provide excellent services as a people, and folks will get everybody. Then everybody.
Floyd, I just want to say, you can hand the mic over. That is right, spot on with what we've talked about in our own organization. Is that the level of service, and there's a lot of discussion we've had in the past about that, going to places and wanting to patronize, but a lot of our members have come back to us and say, hey, yeah, we did this and it turned out this way. We've never seen this before. There's also a higher level of criticism we have for our own, I think, in that too. But also, to your point, April, is that what it sounds like you were speaking to is a tribalism that he was mentioning earlier, in the sense that we have to work as a people. Like, we might be operating here, but we got to work together. We have to make it intentional to spend with each other so that we can come up to a level where we are able to come to each other and do business with each other without thinking twice or having to be intentional about it. So it's kind of like a black mafia type of thing, I used to say. Like, if you think about mob and, people do business with each other, they buy from each other, they sell to each other. And so you have to make that intentional to build up the family.
Can I respond to that? Because this is a very complex conversation we have right now as it relates to this particular topic. But I liken it to this example that I give oftentimes in these kinds of talks. And that is, if you're in a hole, you fall into a hole, you got one of three options when you fall in the hole. One, you got out of the hole because somebody helped you. Two, you got out of the hole because you got on your own. Or three, you die in the hole. Those are the only three options. So, because if you look at how our soldiering has been historically in the country, we wouldn't have had this conversation if we was forced to get on that big boat. We know that happened. Set that to the side. Even if the persons historically said, you know what, I'm going to help right the ship, which that's not going to happen. Set that to the side. So which means it leaves you. So the question becomes, what's next? What's the game plan? So the game plan is to be self-reliant. Somebody say, well, how can you pull yourself up from by your bootstraps if you don't have no boots? We're going to make some boots. There's a movie, the name of the movie escaped me, but it said, they tried to bury us, so we became a flower, believe it. Meaning you tried to bury me, my only next option is to become a flower. So in other words, we got to understand the basis of what we're dealing with, but not use it as a handicap, but actually use it as fuel. And the fuel is, to Floyd said it earlier, that I was going to say, is that we got to force each other to do business with one another by excellence.
I'm gonna force your hand because I'm gonna be so good that you have to deal with me. Now we know when we hang our shingle walk, we're not gonna be excellent to begin with. But every day you gotta walk into your business to find problems and improve your problems. What I do, I'm imperfect. But you best believe every day I'm getting up trying to be better. And next year when you see me, I'm gonna even be better. 2 years from now, I'm gonna be better. And then that, I'm gonna live in your pocket and in your pocketbook. Write that down.
I'm not motivated. So let me ask this question though, because that is an issue. We talk about excellence, and I love that, the idea that you're going to force our hand by being excellent. But what do we do as consumers? And two questions. What do we do as consumers when I'm rocking with you when it's not excellent? Do I put you on social media? On Black? Two questions though. So how do we do I make an exception because you are a Black business owner?
Let me answer that. Yes.
You don't do that. Okay, so what do we do?
You know, I've known a number of folks who've owned fast food restaurants, Black people. And sometimes I'll go in a restaurant and I'll see dirt on the floor. You know what I want to do? I want to talk to the owner. Why do I want to talk to the owner? Because I'm doing him a favor by talking to the owner. I'm saying to him, hey, look, man, I expect the floor to be absolutely clean when I come in here. You know, this is older. You know what I mean? I know the difference between 1 day, 2 day, and older. Ask to speak to the owner, though. Get to the owner, if possible. And you're doing them a favor, again, because when it's brought to their attention, they're going to correct it. They're going to correct it, and it's going to be better for everybody. So don't be shy about bringing it to somebody's attention when it's not excellence. Because again, we should expect Black excellence in everything we do, period.
Can I say this real quick? This is like really, really important. Because Floyd raised a very, very important thing, and we've all experienced this. But this, I promise you, what I'm going to say is very, very impactful. When you ask for the owner, you don't want to have no verbal conversation with anybody that you hope to give constructive advice to. Because when you send them an email or a letter, they have to hear you in total. Because when you tell somebody that their baby is ugly, they're going to be defensive. They're not going to hear you out. So never attempt, management or owner, verbally. Take the time, and this is what we owe the business, take the time to shoot them an email or a letter. They are forced to hear you out in its entirety. Then they can assess it and make some adjustment, and then you follow up. Now, to her point, said, do you go on Facebook? If I slap you, you owe me a slap back. But what you don't owe me is to shoot me. Right. When you go on Facebook or something, you're killing a business.
Right.
That makes you a murderer. Just because your food got served cold.
That's right.
Is that so? Are you so upset that your food is cold that you must put 5 people out of work because nobody goes there?
Right.
I'm sorry?
Yep.
What about y'all?
No, same thing.
Yeah, I'm saying, don't give a bad review except you talk to management or had correspondence to management first. Because you're not helping your community. All you're doing is shutting down more business, making your own community blighted. Because you got off that day. Stop that.
Absolutely. And Rufus brought up, I'm glad Rufus brought the point up, because the point of having a conversation or sending an email is not to embarrass the business. It's like anybody else you have a conversation with. The conversation should be private if there's a conversation. It should not be in front of his or her employees. It's not necessary to begin with. And it's not going to be most impactful. Because all you're trying to do is a favor for that person. You're not trying to harm that person. Right. So I absolutely disagree with posting on Facebook or sending Yelp, and it's just not necessary.
So this is about intention also. So what is it? So what is the intention? Is what you have to ask yourself when you want to do this social media stuff, and you all said, what is the intention? Is the intention to actually see an African American business grow? You have to check yourself on that one. or is the intention just for, just to get off for a couple of minutes? So I think we have to check our intention before we respond.
Okay, so can I add something right quick? So two things. One I would say is that expect the exact same from African American business as you expect from any other race. Don't come into an African American business and complain about there not being toilet paper in the bathroom, for example. But then you go into a Caucasian restaurant and you don't complain, you just go say, can we get some toilet paper, please? Expect the exact same and treat the African American business just like you would treat a Caucasian business. It's not subpar, it's not second level, it's the same. So it bothers me when I see people on Facebook, Instagram, complain about African American business. But 2 weeks ago, I was with you when the same thing happened when we was downtown, and you didn't say nothing. Right. You didn't open your mouth to say nothing to the management or on Facebook or Instagram. So don't do that to African American business, because you hurt them more than you do by not saying nothing. It's best to go talk to them, like they said, send an email to them. People want to improve. People want to know their mistakes. And I guarantee you, if you approach them correctly, right, they'll improve and there won't be any type of hostility. But I really have a problem with people expecting more from an African American business that they would expect from any other business.
Are we harder on ourselves are we harder to one another than outside?
I think so.
I mean, from your experience as business owners.
We've been conditioned to be that way. So we are conditioned to be so self-critical. This is part of our self-hate. We've been conditioned to be down on ourselves more than, just like April was saying. Yeah, of course we are.
I think we are, and I personally don't have a problem with there being higher expectations for black business. That is, I'm coming to you, I'm doing business with you, and because I'm establishing a relationship with you, I expect you to really deliver excellence to your best effort. I mean, from an expectation standpoint, I think it's good because, again, as long as it's in a positive mode, it's going to drive you to be the best you can be, because everything is a learning scenario. I mean, one problem people always have about being in business, they worry about failure. Don't worry about failing. Failing is the best thing in life. That's how you grow. That's how you develop. So yeah, expect a lot from me. You know what I mean? And tell me, and if I come up a little bit short, let me know where it is. It's going to be better next time. It's going to be better.
I would like to add to that with respect to if you have bad service from an African American company, I do believe it's important that needs to be a constructive conversation in regards to if you weren't happy with the outcome. And then also, you're not subjected to having to go there. There's other African American companies that do that same thing, I'm sure. And so it's going back to what we all been saying, it's still staying in that intentional mindset. So okay, this African American company didn't do so well, but I'm going to go over here and get a much better experience. But what we do get sometimes is that this African American company do so well, so I'm done. I'm just done. I'm going to what I'm sure we've already heard. So I think if we can be constructive when we encounter those situations, and then still be intentional about that service and keeping the dollar in our community, then I think we can get a better outcome.
Can you give that to them?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Just take the microphone off.
So it should be one of the tables. All right, so last question before we do Q&A. This is very quick, so give like 1 or 2 bullets on this one. For people who are going to hear about this later, when we take notes, we put it up on our site, or those who are in attendance, can you give or think of 1 or 2 key bad reasons people should not go into business for themselves? So there's a lot of talk about entrepreneurship. Is there a reason that you know of that is not fundamentally sound reason for someone to be going into business? Because we hear everybody there are people who are making money off of getting people into business. So we need people to think, because that's part of the passion that carries you through, is the fact that you have this passion fundamentally. So I want to see what you guys got.
Can I just add this, just because I see some shaking of heads. I roll it. No, because one of the reasons why we ask this question too is that, we have young millennial, who are turning in their resignations left and right. I want to be my own boss. I'm tired of reporting to you, Darvale. I'm done. When the reality is that you may be your own boss, but your clients, you are accountable to your clients. Anyone in sales, anyone in business knows that you still have people that you're accountable to. And so when we ask why one shouldn't do it, look at us as, your mentees. And there are a lot of reasons why a person should own their business, but what might be some reasons why one should not? Wrong thinking, stinking thinking around this.
If you have a passion and you've identified that passion and it's something you're willing to work at, something that you can enjoy working at, because you're going to have to work twice as hard for yourself as you do for somebody else. If in fact that's your situation, there is no reason why you shouldn't go into business. And there's nothing bad at all about it. And the reason why is because if you don't make a couple of $1 billion, what you're going to do is really have an opportunity to grow as a person. And you're going to enjoy the process. You're going to enjoy the journey, even if you don't make $100 million at the end of the day. It's going to give you a chance to self-actualize and see what you're capable of doing. That's all you can ask for in life. It's just that opportunity to be all you can be. So if you can find something, again, that you have that real passion for, there is no reason why you shouldn't do
it. Be prepared. You got to take the rose-colored glasses off. If you're not prepared to work 24/7, and I do mean 24/7, okay, then you might want to reconsider, going into business. And I can also add, don't make your business your job. Because if you're coming from a job, don't make it your job. If you leave the job, your business, as he was saying, is something you love to do, and you can cultivate income from that. So I'll say don't make it your job. Be prepared to work 24/7. And if you have an issue with serving, then you shouldn't do it. Because when you are an entrepreneur, when you're in business, you are a servant. That's what you are. You're a servant. You're a humble servant. And if you have an issue with that, then you might want to reconsider.
Reasons not to go in business. I got nothing. Because it's your vision. Who am I? I am in no position to ascertain whether or not you should go in business. I believe all of us are given gifts. That's a decision you have to make. Once you do decide to make it, or if you decide to make it, just seek counsel. That's what I'll ask you. But the reasons, I have not one reason why you shouldn't do it. I got nothing.
Where's the wisdom?
Where the wisdom is that business is a team sport. And get involved in organizations. And let me just say this about organizations, and not Independent Business Association in particular. We are 501c6 right here. We're 501c6, right? Say it again. C4. I'm sorry. It's the IRS talking about. But anyway, the world is controlled by institutions, and institutions are organizations. So if you're not involved in an organization, essentially what you are is an island. And what happened to an inhabited island, or a person that's on an island by himself? Eventually that person dies. So even if you are a corporate American person, get involved in an organization, because the city is controlled through organizations. Right now, the Independent Business Association has been on a campaign tour in which we bring in every single person that's working for an important office in the city before our table. Last week we had James Winfrey. The week before that we had Roy McAllister. The week before that we had Virgil Hill. Next week I seen Garland stuck his head in here. We'll get him. Next week we in the mayor's office having a meeting with the mayor. Following week we're going to be sitting down with Bill Cobbs, running for the governor. A very, very polished African American, which you guys should know if you don't know. who has a great chance because, as you know, when we look at the governor's race, there's no one with a super high name ID. And when people find out who he is and what he's accomplished, it's going to be very, very important. One last thing, and I know we're about to go in Q&A, is that at Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we're going to be hosting a restore meeting. Restore meaning that anybody who owns a business, who think they may want to own a business, that wants help with their windows or facade or signage or anything like that, it's going to be free here at 11 o'clock. We're going to give you lunch for free. That's being done at Any Ideas by DEGC. If you don't know who DEGC is, Detroit Economic Growth Corp, aka people who really run the city. So we look at young black professionals as our brothers, as our younger brothers and sisters. So y'all can get anything from us. So just wanted to say that.
Appreciate that. April? You good? Okay, so I just want to make sure we're clear before we go to Q&A, because Black Young Professionals is made up of primarily, well, not primarily, a good percentage of us are the corporate types that you just mentioned. So I want to make sure that, is there, everyone's going to have a passion. Does that mean that everyone should launch out, or should they find their way to cultivate their passion within a team? Because that's where we get the do you run off and do it yourself, or do you find a way to build within a team? Because everybody has to eventually have a team, and everybody ends up with employees at some point. So is there a mic right there? You can just grab that one.
That's a beautiful question, and we're going to give the floor next, but I got to say this, and I hope I'm not talking too much. But at any rate, is that we need corporate positioning. We need that key person to say, hey, we got a business, Floyd has a computer company, you guys has a purse string. I have a partner of mine whose name I won't mention, and I won't mention his wife. She works for a very large corporation. Who can guess what the size of her purse is? Her purse is $2 billion with a B. You think I ain't trying to get in her purse? Her husband is my business partner on another matter. She's in corporate America. So now you guys understand the relationship between business owners and key people in a particular area in corporate America. So we don't want people to jump out of the window from corporate America. No, we need you guys in those strategic places. Because once your business career, you decide to transition, you open your consulting company because you know how the corporate monster works. Now you got the wherewithal to be able to do that. But in the meantime, we need to be in your budget. So just like this pop-up shop, has to grow. And we got a permanent one that we're going to talk about a little, and you'll hear about a little later. That's going to be beautiful. So this is temporary. This is about to go away. But the one that we're going to do is going to be very, very beautiful. But we're going to be looking to get in some of our corporate brothers and sisters' budgets to make that happen. All these seats that you guys sit in corporate America. So what you said, Darvell, is very, very, very key. So people that want to be entrepreneurs, great. We want you to sit in that seat. We want to engage you. I think that's very important.
Darvell, sometimes when I hear people talk about making that move, it's in regards to, and it makes sense from a practical standpoint. Hey man, I'm making good money right now. If I go in business tomorrow, bam, I got to start with nothing. I might starve to death. What we're talking about is transition, period. Whether you're working for a large corporation, a small business, whatever. I began by working 2 jobs, saving a little money, and transitioning into business. I had a passion for that business, but you have to, of course, take care of yourself during the transition period. So we're not saying, okay, leave your corporate job today, open up JJ tomorrow. We're not saying that. But if you have a passion, again, transition, try to make it as smooth as you can, but have that passion. It just means that you're going to have to work even harder, a hell of a lot harder, because now you got to work 24/7 for yourself and 24/7 for corporate XYZ also. But guess what? You can do it. Now that you will do it if that's your passion. You definitely will do it, believe me.
That's a very good point you make, because we live in such a quick, fast, instantaneous society. Our culture is just right now. And the fact of the matter is, even for me, I was working a corporate job, worked a corporate job for a few years while I was doing hair in my home, and I transitioned myself into, you know, my own space. So it was not quick, fast, in a hurry. I worked my fingers to the bone. But I knew when it was time to transition myself out of the 9 to 5 and full-time into my own space. So I never want, you know, young folk to think, oh, I'm just gonna quit my job right now and I'm gonna make, you know, $200,000 in the first year. That's not how it goes. It takes a very strong plan, very strategic.
Can I chime in on that real quick?
Really quick, I would just say, for speaking about being in corporate America but still having an endeavor to want to be an entrepreneur, use that as the opportunity to invest in yourself. Because starting a business, you're going to need capital. Going back earlier into this panel, we already talked about the struggles of getting funding. I can speak for myself, my partner, and probably some other people on this panel, that most of us are self-funded when it comes to all the things we do. So we're up here pulling off Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson tricks in these industries. Seriously, when you really understand what's going on. So with that being said, don't do it in haste. Don't do it in emotion. Be strategic. Be intentional about launching your entrepreneurial endeavor, what that is. But don't look at that 9 to 5, wherever that is. It can be McDonald's. Invest in yourself. Have that plan. Know you're going to get that check. And it's a number that says when I get the check, at this point, I'll be able to go ahead and launch my company. So that can be from McDonald's all the way into the corporate space of that some of BYP are in.
Awesome. Thank you. You know, we're going to take a moment for, did we have any other? Okay. So we're going to take a moment for Q&A from our audience at this time. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Tina. Take it away.
Good evening. I guess I can step up to the front so y'all don't have to turn around for your necks or anything. Excuse me. All right, so we gave you all cards and a pen to ask our panelists questions. So if you haven't written one down yet, but as I'm going through these questions, if you want to write one down, if something came to you, please do. If you need a pen, raise your hand, and we can have Jasmine and or April give you a pen. Does anyone need a pen? Are you good? Okay. So I do have one question. I probably have like 5 because I am an entrepreneur myself. So this one's specifically to Rufus Bartell. Can you speak some more, or at least recap